Something that I have been struggling with for a while and going back and forth.
For years, Sara Gilbert has been a beloved presence on screens and in hearts, known for her sharp wit, authenticity, and the way she made audiences laugh while staying true to herself. But behind the smiles and the humor, there's a story fans haven't seen, a side of Sara's life filled with challenges, emotional pain, and moments that have left her quietly struggling. Now, the latest news about her personal journey is breaking, and it's heartbreaking in ways no one expected. Sources close to Sara reveal that recent events have shaken her deeply, forcing her to confront truths she long avoided. For someone who has always maintained a strong public persona, the private battles she's faced in recent months have been intense, emotional, and life-changing. Friends describe her as resilient, but even resilience has its limits. These revelations show that fame and success cannot shield anyone from the heartbreaks of life. Fans around the world are asking, what exactly happened? How has it affected Sara personally, professionally, and emotionally? And how will she move forward after such a trying period? The answers are emerging now, and they paint a picture of a woman navigating grief, pain, and uncertainty with courage, determination, and a vulnerability that will surprise those who only know her from television. This is a side of Sara Gilbert the public rarely sees, and it's a story that touches the heart, reminding us that even the strongest people carry hidden struggles. Sara Gilbert has always been admired for her sharp humor, fearless honesty, and the effortless way she connected with audiences. But in recent months, those closest to her have witnessed a side of Sara that rarely appears in interviews or on screens. A side that is tired, burdened, and quietly grieving. Sources reveal that Sara has been navigating a period of intense emotional upheaval, triggered by a combination of personal loss, family strain, and professional pressure. While she has always maintained a composed public image, the private reality has been far more complex. Those who know her say Sara has been deeply affected by the sudden challenges in her personal life. Family relationships, once stable, have become a source of tension. Misunderstandings, disappointments, and unresolved conflicts have forced Sara to confront difficult truths about herself and those closest to her. Friends describe long nights when she sat alone, reflecting on the fragility of life, questioning choices she thought were clear, and silently processing the pain she felt but could not share publicly. These moments, intimate and private, have shaped her daily reality in ways that fans could never imagine. Professionally, Sara has continued to work, but insiders report that she is approaching projects with caution, careful not to overextend herself. Each meeting, each script reading, each interaction has become a test of endurance. Behind the scenes, colleagues notice a subtle difference in her energy, a sense of withdrawal, a more contemplative approach to decisions that previously would have been made with swiftness and humor. Yet, even in the midst of struggle, Sara has shown remarkable resilience. Those close to her emphasize that she is processing pain without letting it define her entirely. Her closest friends reveal that Sara's coping mechanisms have shifted dramatically. Where she once relied heavily on work and public appearances to distract herself, she now focuses on quiet moments of reflection, reading, journaling, and spending undisturbed time with family. They say she has also become more selective about the people she allows close to her, protecting herself from unnecessary stress or conflict. While some interpret this as retreat, those who know her understand it as a form of self-preservation, a conscious effort to maintain emotional balance amid upheaval. Sara's family has also played a critical role during this time. Insiders report that her siblings and longtime friends have rallied around her, offering support in both practical and emotional ways. Yet even with this network of care, the weight of personal heartbreak has been undeniable. Late nights filled with reflection, moments of doubt, and sudden waves of grief have punctuated her days. Friends describe scenes of Sara sitting quietly by a window, staring at the world outside, lost in thought, processing emotions too complex for words. Fans may not realize how deeply Sara's struggles intersect with her public persona. Her charm and humor have long been her shield, but behind the laughter lies vulnerability that only a few are allowed to witness. Those close to her note that the public often sees only the confident, composed Sara, the professional who navigates late-night talk shows, live audiences, and cameras with ease. But the truth, they say, is that Sara has been working tirelessly to reconcile her public image with private pain. A balancing act that has left her emotionally exhausted. Despite everything, Sara remains determined. Friends describe moments where she pushes forward with clarity, making deliberate choices to prioritize her well-being and emotional health. She continues to pursue creative projects, but now with intention rather than obligation. Each step forward is measured, deliberate, and thoughtful, reflecting a woman who has learned to navigate heartbreak without losing herself entirely. While the headlines may not capture the depth of her struggle, insiders emphasize that Sara's story is one of quiet courage. Even in heartbreak, she is finding ways to move forward, to protect herself, and to prepare for the next of her life. The pain she experiences now is shaping her resilience, creativity, and empathy, reminding the world that even those who seem strong and unshakable face moments that test their very core. Sara Gilbert's journey is far from over. Her heartbreak may be profound, but so is her determination to emerge from this period stronger, wiser, and more self-aware than ever before. In the weeks following the initial wave of heartbreak, those closest to Sara Gilbert noticed a subtle transformation in her daily life. She began to spend more time at home, prioritizing moments of calm over the relentless pace of work. For someone who had built her career on late nights, interviews, and public appearances, this shift was both unusual and necessary. Friends say she often wakes early now, sitting by a window with a cup of coffee, quietly observing the world around her. These moments, simple yet profound, have become her sanctuary, a space where she can process her emotions without pressure, without expectation, and without judgment. Family has played a pivotal role in her emotional recovery. Sara's siblings and close relatives have been providing quiet support, stepping in to handle logistics, manage schedules, and simply be present. They sit with her during long conversations about life, love, and loss, often listening more than speaking. This presence has given Sara the space to reflect on the challenges she's faced, while also understanding that vulnerability doesn't equate to weakness. Friends say these moments have helped her rebuild emotional boundaries that were weakened during her period of intense personal struggle. Professionally, Sara has been navigating her projects more cautiously. Where she previously dove into work with energy and enthusiasm, she now evaluates each opportunity carefully, considering both the emotional cost and the potential fulfillment. Colleagues have noticed a shift in her approach. She is deliberate, thoughtful, and measured, often taking time to think before responding or committing to decisions. This methodical pace has allowed her to maintain creative output while protecting her mental health. And it has given her colleagues a new appreciation for her resilience. The public, however, remains largely unaware of the depth of Sara's struggles. Fans continue to see her on social media, in interviews, and on television, often interpreting her composure as strength, not realizing it masks the emotional turbulence beneath. Friends emphasize that Sara has become highly selective about what she shares publicly, revealing just enough to remain authentic while safeguarding the parts of her life that are most vulnerable. In private, however, she is reflective, introspective, and deeply in touch with her emotional state, processing grief and disappointment that few others can see. Sara's coping strategies have evolved during this period. She has turned to practices that prioritize mindfulness, emotional awareness, and personal growth. Long walks, journaling, and meditation have become daily rituals. Friends report that she occasionally retreats to a quiet corner of her home, spending hours writing down thoughts and feelings, letting them flow without editing or judgment. This process has been instrumental in helping her organize her thoughts, confront emotional pain, and begin to envision a path forward that balances personal well-being with professional commitments. One particularly poignant aspect of Sara's journey has been the way she has started to embrace vulnerability with those she trusts. She has shared long conversations with close friends, discussing fears she rarely voices publicly, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of failure, and the fear that her personal life might overshadow her professional accomplishments. In these private settings, Sara has allowed herself to cry, to vent, and to be fully human. Friends describe these moments as cathartic, a necessary release that has strengthened her emotional resilience rather than weakened it. Despite everything, Sara remains determined to move forward with dignity and purpose. She has begun planning projects with care, seeking work that allows her to express creativity while maintaining boundaries that protect her emotional health. Every decision she makes reflects a woman who has endured pain, faced personal challenges head-on, and is learning to navigate life with a renewed sense of balance. While heartbreak may still linger, it has become a source of insight rather than defeat. Throughout this period, Sara has quietly cultivated gratitude. Friends notice that she takes time each day to appreciate small victories, a meaningful conversation, a laugh shared with a sibling, the completion of a project that felt emotionally safe. These moments, while seemingly ordinary, carry tremendous weight for someone who has endured profound emotional strain. They are the building blocks of her recovery, shaping a future that honors both her personal needs and her public role. Sara Gilbert's journey is far from over, but she has begun to find her footing. Through heartbreak, reflection, and quiet resilience, she is reclaiming her life, one deliberate choice at a time. The path ahead may still hold challenges, but those closest to her believe she is prepared to face them with courage, insight, and the unwavering determination that has defined her career and her character. As Sara Gilbert continued navigating the difficult weeks following her heartbreak, a deeper awareness of herself began to emerge. She started noticing patterns in her emotional responses, moments of anxiety, sudden tears, and unexpected surges of anger or frustration. While these experiences were painful, they also offered clarity. Friends say Sara began reflecting not just on the events that caused her distress, but also on the way she had historically responded to challenges. She realized that, despite her public persona of strength and composure, she often neglected her own needs in favor of others. That realization, though painful, became a turning point. Family remained an anchor during this time. Sara's siblings and close friends were consistently present, offering both emotional and practical support. They didn't attempt to solve her problems or give advice she hadn't asked for. Instead, they provided a safe space for her to express her feelings without judgment. In these moments, Sara could finally articulate her fears and frustrations, voice questions she had been holding inside, and allow herself to grieve without restraint. Friends described these sessions as cathartic for Sara, giving her the emotional clarity to start making intentional choices about her life. Professionally, the heartbreak had a noticeable impact. Sara had always been a hard worker, often throwing herself into projects to maintain focus and control. But in the aftermath of personal challenges, she began to evaluate her professional commitments more critically. She canceled or postponed work that felt emotionally taxing, choosing instead projects that allowed her to maintain balance and well-being. Colleagues noticed a change. She was more deliberate, reflective, and patient in her decision-making. Rather than rushing through obligations, she carefully considered the emotional implications of each step. This approach, though new for her, helped maintain her productivity without compromising her mental health. A turning point came when Sara allowed herself to share more openly with her fans, albeit cautiously. Social media, once a platform for polished appearances and witty remarks, became a space for subtle honesty. She shared small glimpses of her emotional journey, brief posts acknowledging struggles, moments of reflection, or personal insights. These posts, though understated, resonated deeply with her followers. Fans sent messages of support, expressing empathy and gratitude for her transparency. Sara began to see that vulnerability did not diminish her strength. Instead, it allowed her to connect with people on a profound level. Amid these changes, Sara also sought professional guidance. She began working with a therapist to process complex emotions, reconcile feelings of loss, and develop strategies for emotional resilience. This decision, friends say, reflects her determination to approach her challenges thoughtfully rather than suppressing them. Therapy offered Sara a structured space to confront pain, explore coping mechanisms, and identify patterns that contributed to past emotional strain. Over time, she started to notice subtle improvements in her ability to navigate stress, communicate effectively, and maintain a sense of calm amid uncertainty. Even within these private efforts, small moments of joy and progress began to surface. Sara found comfort in reconnecting with old hobbies, writing, reading, and casual creative projects. She spent more intentional time with her children and close friends, savoring the simple presence of those she loved most. A quiet walk in a park, an evening spent cooking with family, or a shared cup of coffee became meaningful markers of healing. Friends note that these small victories, while easily overlooked, played a crucial role in rebuilding Sarah's emotional foundation. Perhaps most importantly, Sara began reclaiming her voice. She started setting boundaries that reflected her emotional needs, learning to say no to opportunities that drained her and yes to those that nurtured her. She embraced the idea that prioritizing herself was not selfish, it was essential. This newfound confidence allowed her to navigate difficult conversations with grace, communicate openly with loved ones, and cultivate a sense of control over her life that had previously felt elusive. Through heartbreak, reflection, and gradual emotional recovery, Sara Gilbert is finding her path forward. While the journey has been painful and the headlines may continue to sensationalize her struggles, those closest to her know that she is emerging stronger, more self-aware, and ready to reclaim both her personal life and professional identity. The challenges she faces are far from over, but Sara is learning that resilience is built not through perfection, but through honesty, reflection, and the courage to face heartbreak head-on. In the weeks that followed, Sara Gilbert began to emerge from the shadow of heartbreak with a newfound perspective on life. While the emotional turbulence was far from over, she discovered that healing was not a linear process. Some days were heavy, filled with quiet sorrow, while others brought unexpected moments of laughter, reflection, or connection. Friends and family noticed a subtle light returning to her presence, a resilience that had been hidden beneath layers of grief and stress. Sara's journey was no longer about merely enduring. It was about reclaiming herself piece by piece. One significant factor in her recovery was the support of her children. Sara had always cherished her role as a mother, but the challenges she faced in recent months deepened the bond she shared with them. She began spending evenings simply sitting with her children, listening to their stories and engaging in small rituals that strengthened emotional ties. These moments were grounding. They reminded her that life, despite its difficulties, contained profound sources of joy and purpose. Friends say that watching her interact with her children brought Sara immense comfort, helping her navigate moments of despair with renewed determination. Sara also made deliberate efforts to reconnect with her personal passions. Long walks in quiet neighborhoods, time spent reading books that inspired reflection, and casual creative projects provided her with avenues to explore her emotions safely. Writing in journals became a nightly ritual, allowing her to document her feelings, hopes, and fears without judgment. Friends who read excerpts describe them as deeply introspective, revealing a woman confronting pain with honesty and courage. It was clear that these private expressions were not only therapeutic, but also instrumental in her gradual emotional recovery. Professionally, Sara began redefining her relationship with work. Where she once felt compelled to push through obligations at any cost, she now prioritized projects that aligned with her emotional well-being and personal growth. She became selective, evaluating opportunities for both feasibility and emotional impact. Colleagues noticed a subtle shift. She approached meetings with thoughtful deliberation, choosing words carefully and listening intently. This intentionality reflected a balance between professional responsibility and self-care, a balance she had struggled to maintain in the past, despite ongoing media speculation. Sara continued to protect her private life fiercely. Headlines often sensationalized her struggles, projecting worst-case scenarios onto her personal and professional circumstances. Yet, friends emphasized that Sara's public composure belied the quiet, steady work she was doing to rebuild her emotional strength. Social media posts were carefully curated, allowing glimpses of her life without exposing her vulnerabilities entirely. She demonstrated that transparency could coexist with privacy. A lesson in resilience and personal agency. A pivotal moment came when Sara made the decision to openly share some of her journey with trusted friends and colleagues. Private conversations allowed her to articulate her feelings more clearly, set boundaries, and reclaim control over her narrative. This openness created a support network that was both nurturing and protective. In these conversations, Sara expressed fears about being misunderstood or judged, yet she also shared moments of hope, gratitude, and determination. Friends say witnessing her courage in these moments was inspiring. It demonstrated a woman refusing to be defined by heartbreak, choosing instead to grow through it. Over time, Sara noticed subtle shifts.